Hello to you and a very warm welcome to today's edition of Revisited. Medellin, the second biggest town in Colombia. For a long time, the most dangerous city in the world. For years, it was where the biggest drug cartel in the history of drug trafficking was based. In Medellin, there is a before and an after Pablo Escobar. Back in the 1980s, and the one nicknamed El Patron, or Don Pablo, was the pioneer of drug trafficking. He controlled the export of cocaine into the US and led an empire based on corruption and murder. His killers imposed their own law, murdering anyone who stood in their way. At the start of the 90s, more than 6,000 people were being killed every year. Medellin was hell. Escobar, perhaps the most wanted man on the planet. Escobar was eventually killed by the army in his own stronghold in 1993, the authorities hoping it would be an end to the era of violence. But other groups soon took over, and the fight for the right to traffic drugs resulted in a gang war without mercy. For years, relentlessly, the Colombian authorities tried to dismantle the network, setting off on a crusade against poverty, including new policies which promoted social inclusion of the poor. So, did it work? Well, the economic capital of Colombia has become a showcase for infrastructure and new technology. Crime has definitely decreased, but the drug trade still does well, with a multitude of armed gangs whose leaders keep a low profile. Medellin remains more violent than the capital, Bogotá. Well, here's our report from Pascal Mariani.
It's a Saturday morning in a poor district of Medellin.
Only 1 minute left, kids. The kids don't have any field in the neighborhood. The city refuses to build one because this neighborhood was founded by Pablo Escobar.
"30 years ago, the boss of the Medellin cartel gave this entire district with 400 new houses to the city's poor. The barrio hasn't stopped growing since. Most of the people who live here work occasional jobs. But WBERNEY works for the city's youth and sports department.
Okay, let's shoot penalties. The first to score wins.
He takes every opportunity he gets to teach the kids.
Let's give him another try. Kids, life always gives us a second shot. Let's give him a chance to score.
And with a little bit of help, he wins.
This city has a heavy history of violence, but we have to do whatever we can individually, from wherever we are, from our neighborhood, our family, to do something so that violence ends. These kids will probably grow to be old enough to become adults and have an idea. A few years ago, no one would have bet on it, because they would die before reaching adulthood. They would kill one another. We want everyone here to die of old age and to stop killing one another.
It's not easy to keep these kids away from the gangs and the lure of easy money. That's Pablo Escobar's sad legacy. Luz Mary has lived in the barrio for 30 years.
Our souls feel lighter. We forget our problems. We leave here feeling cleansed.
But Luz Mary can't forget the Godfather. 20 years after his death, Escobar's ghost still hangs over Medellin.
This is the entrance to the neighborhood. Welcome to Pablo Escobar neighborhood. Here we breathe peace. And this has been true for quite a few years because violence has gone down.
Luz Mary used to live in the city rubbish dump. She was a trash recycler. A single mother, she raised her 5 children in the house Escobar gave her.
This is my house, and these are the rooms with all my mess. I sleep in this room. For me, he's the Colombian Robin Hood. He took from the rich to give to us, the poor. He's the only one to have done something to get us out of the poverty and misery in which we lived.
But he was a Robin Hood who also caused thousands of deaths. Though hated by most Colombians, there are many in Medellin who still revere him, like in WBERNEY's house on the other side of the street.
This is my daughter Valeria. How was school? Did you have all your classes?
Yes.
What do you want for Christmas?
A tablet.
I haven't got enough money for that.
Yes, you do.
WBERNEY took a loan to redecorate his apartment. He gets a pension from the army for his time spent in the military. He lost an arm fighting against the FARC rebels. He's now the head of the district association. It takes up all his free time, and he tries to find support wherever he can.
I fight for my city from my neighborhood, because if my neighborhood is doing well, it benefits to the whole of the city. Even if we still have problems, we work every day from each household so that Medellin can become the best city in the world.
With a population of 3 million, Medellin is a hyperactive metropolis. The country's second biggest city after Bogotá, it dreams of erasing its bad reputation and showing the world a new face. A bit like this monument on the Central Plaza. Botero's initial sculpture was destroyed during a terrorist attack. But a few feet away, the maestro made a new work, identical to the first, as if trying to start anew. WBERNEY often takes the local kids to explore their city. They leave from the city center to the metro cable in the north. The cable car links the poor districts and has become a tourist attraction.
These neighborhoods have the same needs as ours. But we can see that here the state has invested. Nobody would have imagined investing in this kind of neighborhood before. But the best investment the state can make is to give funds to our kids. It's cheaper to invest in kids rather than having to spend money later on delinquents.
Some of these children have often been exposed to violence before.
Mum works in transportation, and my dad, he's not alive anymore. They killed him on his way to work.
It's hard to find a family that hasn't suffered a murder or a disappearance in Medellin. A memorial museum has just opened in the center. Luz Mary has lost several family members.
This is Nicolas Valencia. He was the father of my nephew Daniel. Next to him is José Luis Vasquez. That's my brother. And the following one, Octavio Valencia. He's my nephew. Nicolas, they wanted to steal his house, and they paid 20 euros to have him killed. They killed him as he was leaving his home. And José Luis, they say it was Pablo Escobar's men who killed him.
Luz Mary's friends are all relatives of victims. They're being trained by the Memorial Museum as volunteer guides. In 30 years, more than 80,000 people were assassinated in Medellin. Gang wars, drug violence, murders, and state executions. The work of remembrance is underway, but the violence hasn't stopped. There were another 900 killings last year. But if there's one thing that brings the people of Medellin together, it's love for their city. They're proud of their metro, the only one in Colombia.
Let's stay together, please. Let's get in here, okay?
Medellin is Colombia's most unequal city. But in the metro, at least, there's no social discrimination. The gap between rich and poor is crossed in a few stations. Last stop, a mall in the rich neighborhood to the south of the city. This is a whole different world for these kids. Do you like this neighborhood?
More or less.
Why?
Because the people here are very arrogant, and they don't know how to share.
WBERNEY wants the Escobar district children to get to know this part of the city too, and to grow up without feeling bitter.
We can look at everything, but everything is expensive here, and we don't have any money to buy anything, right? We want you to discover a different culture than ours and our neighborhood. Look how everything is different here. Look at the buildings. Then you will be able to tell your friends what you saw here. Kids, no need to run. This place has a lot of money. There's everything we don't have. Lots of technology, lots of progress, lots of money. Okay, since we're a whole bunch and we don't have much money, I'm going to buy you an ice cream, but you keep it cheap, okay?
But temptation is everywhere. It's all a question of money.
Dad, I asked how much a tablet costs.
How much?
400. It's the cheapest.
You know I can't.
There's no money, but he doesn't envy the rich.
I wouldn't change my life in my neighborhood for a life in a rich neighborhood like this one. I like to come here to compare, but my neighborhood is my land, my home, my house.
Carolina was born in the other Medellin and lives in a wealthy, gated community. She wouldn't change her life for WBERNEY's either.
The city has changed a lot. We have a strong network of new businesses and many creative things. Usually they're run by very young people. They finish university and start a company immediately.
Carolina is 32 and has started her own brand of shoes. She's opened up 3 shops in upscale parts of the city.
The idea was to start something that would create jobs. So everything is made in Colombia. I import the raw materials, but everything is processed in our workshops.
She makes her own designs.
Women here like to have manicured nails. They're fancy. It's beautiful, it's very feminine. And this is good for me because they want to show their feet so I can diversify my designs. Girls want to be pretty and they spend a lot on fashion.
She's a shopaholic.
At night, the Poblado district gets moving. In Medellin, partying is a traditional way of life. Carolina and her friends now feel more at ease and can relax and have fun in the city's fashionable bars. The owners of this place are a couple from California. Rob and Carmen came here 5 years ago. They run 2 restaurants in Medellin, which would have been unthinkable for foreigners only 10 years ago.
Life in Medellin is very easy. The people here are very special, very warm, and life here is good. It's a different city from what it was in the 80s, and it's a completely safer city. It's improved massively, massively.
WBERNEY is up early this morning. He doesn't want to miss a generous offer.
They're going to hand out 30,000 presents for kids in Medellin. The politicians help people. They give us notebooks when school starts and presents for the kids at Christmas. That's the kind of politicians we need.
Jesus Aníbal Echeverri, a member of the city council and candidate to be Medellin's next mayor, is met by an adoring crowd.
Thanks for the high school, Jesus Aníbal. Thanks for the high school.
But getting involved in politics has its complications.
Someone stole money from the Environmental Protection Office. They stole it, the money for the gymnasium. We've denounced them.
The highlight, though, is the handing out of presents.
God bless you.
The leaders from each district leave with campaign posters and voting instructions. That's how politics work in Medellin. The Escobar years are over, but the city is still looking for guardian angels.
Hey kids, good afternoon. Look at these presents. They're from someone in the city who loves you. It isn't a computer or an iPad, but it's given with all the love in the world.
In the Escobar days, the kids were a bit more spoiled. Today, they won't get a spectacular present from a powerful stranger. But at least their role model isn't a criminal.
The changing face of Medellin in Colombia. Well, that's all for this edition of Revisited. More, of course, coming up here on France 24 soon. So do stay with us if you can.